Welcome to Planet Waves TV. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, host of PlanetWaves.fm and the author of the Planet Waves horoscope. There will be a new monthly horoscope coming out, looks like, on Tuesday of next week. You can find that at planetwaves.net. So one of the more, let's say, exciting qualities of our moment is that right now, on Friday, there's an exact T-square of Mars, Pluto, and Eris. If you're really curious about this, I give a long talk about it in the new edition of STARCAST, which is available on our YouTube channel at Planet Waves TV or at planetwaves.net. But the summary is that this has been quite an exciting week, with Mercury stationing direct a few days ago on Monday, and then on Wednesday there was the full moon, and the full moon was conjunct Eris. So the moon in Aries was conjunct Eris, and the sun in Libra was conjunct Mars. And all of those, the Mars-Sun conjunction and the moon Eris conjunction, were both square Pluto. And so that is to say that there is a kind of a T-square, precisely that T-square from Aries to Libra to Capricorn. And this is a very high-tension aspect, and it's also involving three very energetic planets, specifically Mars, which is the living incarnation of energy, and then Pluto and Eris. And in StarCast, I describe how rarely it is that Pluto and Eris get together in an aspect. I think the last one was in the late 1970s, and the current one is right now. And then I guess the next one is in the 21st century, because Pluto is at the very slow part of its orbit. And so whenever you get a combination of factors that includes a Pluto Eris aspect, you're dealing with something very rare. And as it happens with this very rare square aspect, Pluto square Eris going on, Mars slips right in while it is at peak intensity. And so that, it brings a personal element to that. It fires up the power of the aspect. It brings it closer to us, because Mars is really a close by planet. And one thing I would point out about this ongoing, now basically over, but it's in effect now, but it's done being doing its thing after now, is that the Pluto Eris square stretches between early 2020 and late 2021. So it covers the entire quote-unquote COVID era. And the aspect was exact first on 1/22 or 1/23/20, around January 22nd, 2020. And that is an important date in the history of this whole thing, because it's the day that the Corman-Drosten paper, the thing that becomes the foundational proof of the whole pandemic and the existence of a test and all that stuff, was submitted to this publication called Eurosurveillance on the day of the Pluto Eris square. And so the Pluto Eris square is part and parcel of this whole thing. And even more interestingly, though I haven't done a proper breakdown of the astrology of COVID, I'm probably the only astrologer who hasn't attempted to do this, but I've been so busy with the investigative reporting on COVID that it hasn't seemed to make much sense to speculate, but which astrology essentially is. But it is not speculation to say that in early January, on the 12th of January 2020, was the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, and it was right in that little pocket that China was releasing its series of theoretical phony sequences for this virus that then became the basis of the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR so-called COVID test. And the plans for the COVID test are published about 10 days later or so in Eurosurveillance. So the whole COVID scenario is really it's a combination of factors, mainly Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn back then, and Eris in Aries, and so this is still continuing through to that time. And again, if you're interested in the astrology, I've written about it in the lead, cover story on planetwaves.net, and then also in STARCAST on planetwaves.net, as well as on my YouTube channel here at Planet Waves TV. Lots and lots of these STARCASTs are published on our YouTube channel. All right. So, however, now comes the question. Well, now that Mars is moving through the Pluto Eris square, and it was lit up by a full moon earlier in the week, what's going on? And this leads to my lead story on tonight's Planet Waves FM on the Friday night. I'm not looking at a computer, so I'm forgetting the day. I think it's the 20th or 22nd or something. Anyway, it's Friday, and I'm at the Broadway Lights Diner in Kingston. So what is so incredible right now is that the story that has been lingering since the very beginning of the pandemic, which is so-called pandemic, which is the lab release theory, is now bubbling up to the top of the news. And Fauci, maybe you've seen the videos various places of Fauci and Rand Paul going back and forth over gain of function research being conducted by the National Institutes of Health, paid for by the NIH. That's Fauci's organization. It's under the United States Department of Health and Human Services. And pretty much everyone knows, because I've been writing about it for well over a year, 15 months or something like that, that during a ban on gain of function research, the United States was proceeding with gain of function research secretly through the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The ban was theoretically lifted in 2017, according to various articles and reports that I'm reading, but that let's see how to explain this. There's an organization called EcoHealth Alliance. It's headed up by a guy named Peter Daszak. EcoHealth Alliance are the people who go to that cave, like 1,000 kilometers from Wuhan, and shove Q-tips up the butts of bats and collect coronaviruses and bring them back to the lab to experiment. So what lab? Well, EcoHealth Alliance has a contract with the federal government to do this work, and then it has a contract with the Wuhan Institute of Virology, so there's a virology lab. And so essentially, the EcoHealth Alliance, headed by Peter Daszak, is the go-between between the Wuhan Institute of Virology and Tony Fauci. And Fauci has been denying over and over again that there was gain-of-function research going on. And so today must be the 22nd. So, because I'm looking at a letter dated the 20th. That's where I got the 20th in my mind. This very interesting letter, which we will post and have posted already from planetwaves.fm, the lead show, is that now the Department of Health and Human Services is admitting that it was funding the EcoHealth Alliance, which was funding the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So that is now firmly out of the category of rumor or conspiracy. The Department of Health and Human Services, see, I don't know if it'll sign right on there. Let's see. Right, Department of Health and Human Services letter, 10/20 earlier this week, I think on Wednesday, admitted that its money is going to the Wuhan virus factory. And yet, 5 different times in this letter, they deny that it's even possible that any of that gain-of-function research going on in the Wuhan virus factory, which they deny was gain-of-function research, could possibly have led to this global pandemic. I'm pretty good on the gain of function issue and the lab release theory. I've been following it for a long time. I've got some good sources on that issue, and what I'm planning to do tonight is to take up the whole theory of a lab release of the coronavirus and contrast it with another issue, which is the apparent lack of a virus whatsoever. Now, I covered that on Planet Waves FM about 3 weeks ago in an interview with Christine Massey up in Canada, Toronto area, who is she's coordinating the worldwide effort to query governments under various different open records laws and freedom of information laws to get them to claim whether they have a sample of virus from a human specimen. And as of the program about 3 weeks ago, 107 different governments and institutions, so federal, state, and provincial governments, and then institutions like the NIH or Health Canada or the National Health Service, have all denied having a sample of SARS-CoV-2 from an actual patient. So something doesn't exist unless it can be proven to exist, right? That's basic, I don't know, existentialism or whatever, rhetoric or common law, whatever it might be. No government can point even to not only to records of their having a sample, but none can point to a paper showing that there is an actual sample from a human specimen. And what this does is it underlines the fact that the test for COVID, what's being called the test for COVID, can't test for SARS-CoV-2 because no one has a sample of the stuff to sequence it to then find it, because you have to have the thing you're looking for. You can't just say, go find this pencil. You have to say, here's one now, go find one just like it. Okay, so this is a problem. And we might ask, well, what is this PCR test looking for? Well, it's looking for a theoretical in silico sequence that was made on a computer based on a partial sequencing of the N gene called MN908, alleged N gene, MN908947, which was released by China right at the time of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, in case you're wondering about the astrology of that. And so there not only is no wild live sample of this stuff to prime the test with to find more of it, all the instructions on the test, including FDA and CDC and LabCorp and all that, and the inventor, and pretty much everyone else, all admit that you can't actually find virus, you can't diagnose infection with PCR test. And the thing with the PCR test is, even though its instructions and the FDA and the CDC says, and the inventor, Carrie Mullis, this is not a diagnostic test, that's all it's being used for. The press, the New York Times, and so forth are all saying confirmed case of SARS-CoV-2. Well, they're saying a confirmed case because they got a PCR positive. But you can't have a PCR positive because the PCR can't do that in the first place. It can't actually diagnose infection, and furthermore, there's no SARS-CoV-2 in the test such that they could ever possibly find the stuff in the world. So that makes a very strong case for the no virus theory. And that's juxtaposed with what would seem to be a very strong case for the lab release theory, because first of all, there's only one lab doing this work in the entire world. That lab is in Wuhan, China. That is where the pandemic is said to have begun. The wet market, the Wuhan fish market, and the lab are like a 15-minute bicycle ride away. So they're neighbors. There's a river running through the city. They're on different sides of the river. Now, so I don't think that there was a lab release here. That I certainly assert that it is well supported in a variety of documents released by the federal government and numerous other sources that there was some sort of gain-of-function research going on, despite what Fauci says. Now, so they're two different things, right? Whether they're doing gain-of-function research or what does Fauci admit to. And Fauci, if you watch his videos with Rand, videos of his testimony debating with Rand Paul, seems to be attempting to split hairs about what is and isn't gain-of-function research. So he's like changing the definition. But what happened was, and according to this letter that's linked, it's posted on Twitter by Richard Ebright, someone who I do know. He's a professor at Rutgers. This letter from Lawrence Tabak to United States Representative James Comer, a congressman who queried the NIH about this. Well, there was the accidental gain-of-function research inadvertently discovered in the course of doing all of this research, where they found that they could take bat coronaviruses and infect mice to see what would happen, and in the process of doing that, they accidentally discovered gain of function, and that EcoHealth Alliance didn't follow the rules of its own grant by reporting that to the Department of Health and Human Services. So they're saying, oh, well, we weren't doing that, but it kind of happened, and then that EcoHealth Alliance broke the terms of its grant by not telling us that it happened. And so what's exciting is that according to Dr. Tabak, who's a dentist and a PhD in something, they've ordered EcoHealth Alliance to produce all of its experimental notes from that incident. So even though I don't have evidence to support that there was a lab release, because there's insufficient evidence of a virus at all to support the evidence of lab release, right? If you have lab release, you're going to have evidence of a virus. What I like about it is that in the public's mind, it is certainly plausible that there was lab release, right? So it may not have happened, but it exposes the fact that the work was going on. It exposes the fact that Fauci lied about that work. It exposes the fact that EcoHealth Alliance seems to have covered up a scientific discovery. But this is something for the public to latch onto. This is something that's relatable. It's something that is plausible. It has legs. It's kind of like you could say, well, where did this come from? Like even if you believe that it exists, that there's a virus and there's a syndrome, any reasonable person is going to say, well, how did this all start? And the wet market theory is completely shot full of holes. Based on their tests, the entire wet market tested negative. They do not have the intermediary animal between the bat and the human that could have spread the thing, and a very large portion of the so-called original patients had absolutely no contact whatsoever with the Wuhan market, called the Huanan wet market, including the first patient to have COVID-19, claimed to have showed up in the hospital on December 1st, 2019. And interestingly, none of his relatives got it. So, this unravels a whole bunch of problems that fit within the framework of there is a virus and there is a pandemic. So, as I've said a number of times, this whole story is paradigmatic. You're in one frame of reality. There is a virus frame of reality. And you can analyze it from there. Well, where did the virus come from? If there is a virus, what are the properties of the virus? Can you test for the virus? Why or why not? And then there is no virus paradigm, because no government has produced any paperwork, scientific study, chain of custody documents, experimental notes, or the admission. 107 of these governments and institutions openly say they have no record of a virus. So, which is it? I'm going to take that up on the Friday night, October 22nd edition of Planet Waves FM. And again, the astrology is at STARCAST. Weekly horoscopes on the front page of planetwaves.net. I'm getting awesome traffic. It's great to be back doing the weekly horoscope. Next week, last week of the month, I'm doing the monthly horoscope only. That's plenty, along with a new article. And I think the title of the article is going to be called The Deification of Hysteria. All right. So I'll catch you back tonight or sometime in the past, depending on when you're seeing this, for the newest edition of planetwaves.fm. That's where you find the show now, planetwaves.fm. And signing off from the Broadway Lights Diner in Kingston, New York, right on Broadway, this is Eric Francis. Bye for now.